If used correctly, shrapnel bazookas can be like swift army knives. You can break legs on occasion. Shoot down flight types a little easier. Shoot down infantry. And if you're a raid, take out a support without having to always get close. It can oftentimes seem like there is a mysterious art form that comes with using shrapnel bazookas. For many players, this art form has proven to be very elusive and foreign. So today, I'm here to help you out with that. Now, there are many different playstyles, and no two players are ever 100% the same, unless they are deep in the meta. And therefore, it is possible that there is another way to rain shrapnel on your opponent. This is just my way of using it. I know I typically cover a specific rare mobile suit in my videos, but this time around, I figured I would cover one of the rarest, if not the rarest, weapon type in the game. The first step to understanding how to use any shrapnel bazooka is by removing the word bazooka from its name. Forget about it being a bazooka entirely, because that's not what it really is. Think of it more as a semi-automatic rifle, or if you would like, a shotgun with the longer range. So, before we continue, make sure the thought of it being a bazooka has left your mind entirely. Pause the video if you have to. Okay, let's move on. Some players complain that it takes multiple shots to stun someone with the shrapnel. The problem is not that they're necessarily wrong, but that they're simply using it wrong, and trying to use the wrong tactics with it. Of course, if you try using it like a normal bazooka to stun and then move in for a fast melee, you're going to be disappointed. While you can still occasionally stun an opponent and then move in for a melee attack, your strategy should be to first inflict as much damage per second while keeping your distance and softening up your target. Second, to see if you can try to break some legs. And third, if the situation calls for it, use it to get close to move in for a melee. To get you started, there are two shrapnel bazookas that I would recommend to you, that I find the easiest to use. The first is the Mark II's Hyper Bazooka. It has 10 rounds and a relatively fast firing rate. The reload rate is a little slow, however, but the extra ammo makes up for it. This bazooka can be used for the Mark II, both Barzan types, and the Hazel Custom. For beginners, I recommend practicing with the Mark II over the others since it has an additional secondary weapon to help you get out of trouble. Add the level 3 melee priority and it should give you better odds of survival. Keep in mind that I'm really only talking about the level 1 in 500. You might still have some luck at level 2 in 550 as well. But for beginners, I would say start off at 500 cost matches. Or if you're only able to get 450 cost matches during your time logging on, then you can use the level 1 Barzan. It's not as good as the Mark II, but it still has a certain charm to it. The second one, and my favorite, is the Shrapnel Clay Bazooka. It does have 4 less rounds than the Shrapnel Hyper Bazooka, but it makes up for it with a faster reload rate. The Clay Bazooka can be used by the Rick Diaz, Hyakushiki, Shashram Diaz NZ, Daiji SCR, Zero Shiki, Rick Diaz 2, and the Zero Shiki Type 2 AR. The regular Daiji also has the Shrapnel Clay Bazooka, but that's as a secondary weapon, and doesn't exactly have the same stats, so you won't get the full experience with it. For me, I tend to have the most success with the Hyakushiki. The main thing is to simply do your job as a raid, and use the supports as target practice. You won't even have to get close to start your attack. And don't worry, yes, you're going to be a raid picking on supports, but at least you're not using stealth like a noob, or a fake beacon, or using a heavy melee attack to take out the supports with practically one hit. You will still be able to look at yourself in the mirror after the match. The support players might still not like you, but at least they can't say that you played unfairly. You can keep your head up knowing that you at least announced yourself to your opponents and gave them a fair chance to react to you. Once you develop some serious confidence with it, you'll be able to cause some serious damage to the generals as well, while also taking them on in a fair fight. If raids are not your style, then I recommend the Rick Diaz or the Daiji SCR for the generals. I've had success with both in the past. I suppose it's really more of a cost range thing to help you determine which one to start off with. The Rick Diaz starts off at 500, while the Daiji SCR is in 600, so you should know what you're getting into at 600. Regardless, between the two, I think I've had more fun with the Daiji SCR. That's just me though. I really like the head Vulcans, and the secondary beam rifle is a nice addition to help me either get out of trouble or lets me be more aggressive whenever I need to. This sort of makes it feel like a well-balanced suit, despite not having a dodge roll. Instead of a dodge roll, however, it comes with a nice overboost skill. The Rick Diaz, on the other hand, when used with the shrapnel, is more of a mid-range fighter. That's not to say that it can't get up close. It has 2 tackles after all, and even though it doesn't look it, it can be fast. For me, so far it seems like it's more dependent on the map that it's on. On something like Tropical Desert, you can bet it will do some real damage. There is also the Zero Shiki if you prefer other generals to be used with the Shrapnel Bazooka. The main issue, however, is that the Zero Shiki is one of the more unique mobile suits that sort of requires you to use the beam rifle in order to get the most out of it. So I would say avoid it when it comes to the bazookas. When it comes to supports, I personally don't think you'll get that good of results as you would with the previous mentioned raids and generals. With that being said, I have had some limited success with the Zero Shiki Type 2 AR. But if you saw my video on that one, then you should know the main strength of it is in its melee downswing. Other mobile suits with the Shrapnel Bazooka are the Stark Jagan and the Z2, but I would recommend you stay away from these for now, if you're new to using Shrapnel Bazookas. The Stark Jagan Shrapnel Bazooka has a really slow firing rate compared to the other bazookas I just talked about. At the same time, it does have some decent secondary weapons to help you out, so I could be wrong. This is just my personal opinion. As for the Z2, well, I'll get to that one in another video soon. As I always tell anyone when trying out a new suit, with a few exceptions, is to use everything the suit has. That means to not only rely on the Shrapnel Bazooka, you have to use everything. You have to use the head Vulcans and whatever other secondary weapons the suit has to help you keep you alive for as long as possible. So remember, the Shrapnel Bazookas are not bazookas. They are long-range shotguns, meant for softening up a target to give you an opening for a hit-and-run attack. And like with any weapon in the game, don't rely on only one of them. Always find ways to integrate a weapon with the rest of your arsenal, even if all you have are a melee weapon and head Vulcans. Use what you have and don't dwell on what you don't have. As always, Mobile Suit K9, signing off.